未来洗联储还 HDO 洗币会别人抢着来成为国家流通的货币。接下来被国家认可、主权认可、主权流通，甚至大的这招手地控制的金融集团流通，它是一定会发生的。
Welcome to episode 8 of Crypto News Talk. Moscow said digital currency is the future. Are we ready for the future? My name is Bindi Bindi.
And I am Jesse. So in our previous episode number 7, we discussed what is CBDC and what is stablecoin. So in this episode, we will try to parameterize and we will try to unpack and deconstruct, will regulation break or make our HCN? And what's the World Government Summit in 2020 has to do with all this? World Government Summit. An indicator there. Producer, can you give us the video, please? Thank you.
The key difference between a stablecoin and a CBDC is who's issuing it. And in one case, you have a monetary authority or a central bank, and that's in the case of a CBDC. But in the other case, you have a financial institution that falls under the regulatory regime of a financial regulator, which leads to the next question. What are some of the key things that you think regulators, whether they be a central bank or a monetary authority, should take on or should begin looking at before they regulate, accept, and allow these types of technologies to exist within their environment?
I think that the regulators are with the CBDCs, they're trying to kind of catch up. They're trying to maybe, if you have a negative view, they're trying to replace what we have today with the central bank and the banks with just e-money, right? And we know e-money, that has been around for years. And for domestic payments, I don't really see a very big use case for CBDCs, except that it could be a very good tool for mass adoption to crypto. I think CBDCs could be that. But on the regulatory side, I think regulators, they should and they will become to love blockchains. And some of them already do, right? Because with chain analysis, with the tools are out there, you can detect, you can trace stuff that you haven't been able to in the fiat world. So I think that's a massive movement already. But it quickly devolves into a discussion around private, public ledgers, centrally governed, centrally controlled, versus the whole idea of a consensus-driven community, which I like.
Yeah, I quite liked the facilitator and the panel, actually. We always say, watch the swagger, because pretenders always get found out. Now, in the 1970s, we have the era of the Nifty 50s. You know, in the 1987, these are the entrepreneurs making calls. And 1990s, of course, we have the Japanese developers. Remember them? And in the 2000, which I was involved in, unfortunately, the dot-coms bubble burst. What a big burst it was, bloodbath everywhere. And 2008, we have the subprime. Who could have forgot the subprimes? My heart goes out to you. In 2021, we have loss-making IPOs. Oh, lots of them, yep. I hope you kept your powder dry there, because shortly after we have cryptos and meme stocks, right? GameStop, NFTs. And in 2022, we reckon is the era of the regulators, because, you know, one of the topic, and what I say I like that, because they could dance around the topic, right? They're dancing around the topic and giving us crumbs and giving us indicators and signals. For example, who is issuing it? So the real issue between CBDC, stablecoin, blah, 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 is who is issuing it. Meaning at the underlying of what they're not saying is who has the power, military power, tech power, who has the trust that the rest of the world will go, yeah, you know, I'll put my eggs with you, because at least you've got the big guns, you got the big boats to back up what you're saying. And CBDC, of course, we know, you know, the digital currency that's issued and controlled by central banks. That's the path that they're taking. And they're the private part, which Bindi will share with us a little bit more. The jury is still out there. Stablecoins that's privately issued on various blockchain metrics, all right, that support the smart contracts. And at this juncture, we would like to thank Stephen. Stevie has been feeding us a lot of this material, and we do want to give the credit where it's due. So what are key principles? Regulators. Now, who should CBDC or monetary authority, right? Because they control the money flow, the supply, M1, MO, they print money, that is, right? Now, should they adhere to what the regulator says, or the private? How regulated should it be? How long is the string? How stretched can the rubber band be before it breaks? Now, of course, the Fed Reserve is the central bank of the US. All right, monetary authority, central banks control the supply of money. We've spoken about that. Now, important point, SEC. Now, SEC has not taken action yet to regulate stablecoin issuers, which we are part of it. Now, SEC says to regulate cryptos, that will remain a regulation by enforcement. For those lawyers within us, you know, regulation by enforcement, meaning perhaps I'll give you a sandbox, a sandbox with parameters. You play around, and when I see what I don't like, you'll get a slap on your wrist, and hopefully it's just a slap on the wrist legislation, right? For the US regulation for stablecoins will be post-August, their congressional break. So likely regulation will lie with the CBDC. And what's the point of regulations actually? And Bindi Bindi asked a question, just now, like she asked, what she has her own view, which I kind of like. She did ask, so what do we see the Fed Reserve? What was the Fed Reserve plan, right? And at this juncture, I'll finish my portion first, because I really want to hand the mic over to her to illuminate this issue. Now, to us, of course, the principal goal is to facilitate payment amongst consumers. It's actually really to give comfort, all right, on a day-to-day basis, because that's trade. Beyond international trade, that's daily commerce, right? And it's an alternative to cash. I would say that it's an alternative to fiat currency, because cash is what they are trying to wipe out. Whatever you're stashing below your pillows, one day you will have. Modi has done that already when he became Prime Minister of India. All right, he said we're issuing a new note. It's better, counterfeit proof and whatever. So bring in your old one and we'll give you a new one. And a lot of people couldn't bring their old one out because they couldn't explain. The biggest stake is the tax office. All right. So it could be, it could be an alternative for domestic market and for what we call the supranational, which is across borders, because that's a big part. That's international trade. So by establishing a regulatory framework, so essentially they are saying, all right, you want to trade, be it whether you're retail or wholesale, you need to create a CBDC account. Now, if you don't, it's like you have telex and I have fax machine, or better than fax machine, and you still keep a telex, of course. All right, but without fax machine, you can't talk to a lot of people. All right, so that's the adoption curve that we'll talk about. I think is a topic worth exploring, adoption, and of course, addressing the regulatory concerns. The public-facing optics. They say, oh yeah, risk of loss, counterfeiting, privacy, money laundering, and proviso. Via regulations, of course, is consumer protection. Always consumer protection. Really? Hopefully. All right. But it does. They do try to allay the broader financial stability, which is, to me, I go like, oh, hang on. You mean with regulations, we have a lot of financial stability already? We'll leave that question for another day. Now, so by applying this regulatory framework, they are saying CBDC should then therefore be regulated. Makes sense. It's akin to regulations, the wholesale digital fund transfer market, and then of course hacking, counterfeiting, privacy again, money laundering. We heard all that. So Bindi, what's your view?
I want to start by quoting what Miles Gore said in a crude way, but he said it this way. He said, governments are all liars. They are all about maintaining society's stability, and that's it, nothing else. So they will do whatever they do, whatever policy they maintain, that they provide, it is for that purpose. It's for control. So let's have a look with what Federal Reserve tells you their function is. Their function is about maximizing employment, stable prices, and moderate long-term interest. And that is actually published on their website itself. And even our Australian RBA, they have a very, very similar objectives as well. But they coined it as maintaining economic and the welfare of Australian. So what do? They whatever policy they come up with, it is all about sound economic and welfare of Australian. But really, is it really the case? But it is more about control. That's the reason why you have Federal Reserve as well as Treasury in the US. They all are behind monetary policy, with the Federal Reserve performing the role of coming up with setting interest rates, controlling money supply, but the actual printing of money itself is issuing the Treasury notes are done by the Treasury, and the budgeting also done by the Treasury. So that's control. But as opposed to Australia, RBA, they print the notes as well as set the base interest rates, with the Treasury only doing economic analysis and or other authoritative policy. So all this all serve to set the scene for the society. So maintain stability. And that's what the amount score said. They're all liars, but really they are just about maintaining stability. So when it comes to regulator, so the regulator, what do? They have to work with the monetary authority. They have to work with the Treasury to make sure that whatever that the Treasury, the Feds, or in Australian's context, the Treasury as well as RBA, they all work together to make sure that the policy that comes up with by one agency is enforced by the other agency. So you said that in the SEC has not started regulating the issuers, but hey, they have to take one after another. First of all, they have already started regulating the commodities. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, they have started regulating BTC and ETH. And it's a matter of time before they start regulating the stablecoin issuers. So when it comes to regulating, that is when they have to study framework that's already out there. And as far as CBDC, even though the US have kind of like lagging behind, but they are really not, because they are just studying, right? And it takes time for them. So does it mean that rushing ahead is going to give them an edge? Not necessarily. Ultimately, it is the entire, when you look at economy, it is not about who is the first, but it is who is the most powerful. US is still the largest economy in the world, even though China thinks that it is not. That is only in the mind of the paper tiger itself. So ultimately, whatever US says will be I think, the reigning framework. So in that particular clip, the rest of it has a lot of everybody trying to promote their own stable coins and talking about how it is compared to CBDC. But ultimately, whether CBDC is going to be a bygone conclusion, I think yes, it would definitely be a bygone conclusion. It's a question of whether it is who is going to be issuing authority. I think we are still going to maintain the current framework with in the context of US. I think it is going to be still actual issuance itself by the Treasury, but who sets the policy as to how much to issue and everything? I think the Fed will do that. Same with Australia. They are not going to pass the ability to issue a CBDC to anybody else. The RBA will continue issue the CBDC and to the banks. And with the banks doing all the administrative work, like, for example, opening of accounts, doing KYC. So I think this is where the trend will be going. Nobody will be in the position to upset this trend. How competitive will each of the stable coins, will they be able to outdo each other? I think there will be a time where we will have to see ultimately which stablecoin will come out in front. I think the stablecoin that fulfills the regulatory framework of the regulators will be the one coming up in front, and CBDC will coexist with stablecoin. And of course, no government is going to allow a stable coin that contradicts its framework to exist. So watch that space, and we'll see how stablecoin and CBDC will eventually, which one will eventually emerge from the battleground. Over to you.
Yeah, so what Bindi has shown us is what actually the U.S. Federal Reserve, they released a they did a press release, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, producer, can you bring us that press release, please? Because this is rather illuminating, to say the least. Yep, the press release from U.S. Federal Reserve. Yep, there you go. All right. So Bindi, what you have just told us actually is, they're creating a framework and to say, all right, there's a lot of opportunities in there, from banking to fintech to the rest, our customers and overall financial system. All right. And from government to central bank level, the back end, the pipelines, the highways, etc., which then arises this asset class, and with disruption equates risk. So you're saying that this is a mega trend, is that right, Bindi?
Yes, even the US, they have actually recognized it some time ago. This latest release is by no means that they suddenly wake up. That's not the case. It is more like, you don't always have to tell people what cards you're playing. But behind it all, they have been watching, and ever since November last year, they have issued a series of statements, and then culminating to eventually President Biden issuing an executive order to say that, hey, look, we will have to look at regulating crypto-related activities, as well as looking into issuing of CBDC. At the end of it all, is like this is a technological disruption. If you can't beat them, you join them. And not only you join them, you have to beat out all your competition and continue to be the reigning currency in the world. That's how it is. So question is whether the USDC is going to be the reigning reserve currency in the world. That is the trend. That is the mega trend. That's why Miles Guo said digital currency is the future. So the question is, which one will be the future, or is it going to be a basket? Over to you, Jesse.
Yeah. So remember the video just now where they held the World Government Summit 2020. It is in the ME, what we call the MENA region, the Gulf region, and that's from what Mr. Ko shared with us. That's where the origination of a lot of the hot money, and interesting place to pick. So my comment is, the big cats, the banks, all right, they're connected to the Fed anyway. Now, what are they trying to? Are they trying to create a chokehold on the flow of money, or where capital can flow? What about pension funds? What about SWF? What is the sandbox for them to engage in crypto assets related activities? Because we know these are the one that moves markets. So essentially, what we're trying to say, or what we're trying to unpack, is where is the adoption curve now? Where are we at the adoption curve? What are the main drivers for the adoption curve? And my personal belief is actually contrary to what it is saying. Regulation is actually one of the best adoption drivers. That's my view. You're fine and very well, to disagree. And of course, under review, then the big banks, right? Because the bank stops, the world stops. Actually, I really think if women stop spending, the world goes into recession within a day. And tell my wife that. The big banks, of course, they have to comply to the regulatory requirements, similar to the financial world. So in this letter, the board says they will supervise the banking organization that should have adequate system and controls. So they're telling, hey, banks, I'm going to regulate you, but you are going to come up with the adequate system and control. That's the best job. you have the best fun and none of the care in the world. So then, of course, the momentum gathers. The Fed and the government on cryptocurrencies, it gathers steam, and which brings us to the summary of this of supervision and regulation letter. Can you bring up the next PPT, please? Oh yeah, we are already there. So yep, the regulatory highlights. Tech opportunities, anti-money laundering. Seriously. Okay, well, I'll stick to the script. Consumer protection and legal compliance. Seriously? How did .com happen? The .com burst happened. And financial stability. Yeah, of course. Yeah, legal permissibility. So it's beginning to set the stage of who are the characters in this play, in this theater. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. All right? The Bob should be proud of what they are doing. And of course, then you have to provide notification of proposed activities. All right? It mentions crypto assets. I don't know what it means when they mention crypto assets. And Bindi, what's your view on crypto assets?
By right, cryptocurrency is, you can think of it as a digital gold. So a lot of people, because there's just, with the earlier generation of cryptocurrency, there's just not enough in circulation like Bitcoin and all this sort of thing. So people use it, just because of 21 million Bitcoin, people view it as digital gold. So the grandfather of digital currency, Bitcoin, that's how people look at it. And because of it not being regulated, that gives the rationale for regulators coming and say, consumer protection. Especially with the recent crypto crash, a lot of consumers are actually burnt. And we have seen it on mass media, how this and that person have lost that much money on Bitcoin or the crypto burst. And I actually know of people who put a lot of money into one crypto. So that gives a reason for consumer protection. But ultimately, like what we said, the government's role is to maintain stability in a society. Anti-money laundering. But behind it all, the rationale you can look at it is they want to also, Australia is very, very open. They actually tell you that they want to control, you have to pay tax, whatever cryptocurrency you have, when you buy and sell, when you trade, you have to pay tax. I think at the end of it all, it's also all about ensuring a good source of revenue for the government. Taxation, it is definitely a very important portion of reining in the crypto space, and issuing CBDC will make sure that whatever there's, you can no longer hide money under your pillow. Just like what Jesse was saying. Talking about India replacing the currency, it has happened before under our former Prime Minister Mahathir. He just said, okay, we are changing the currency. So all those people who have had cash stashed away in the safety deposit box. I actually know of people whose father, who was an ex-minister, labor minister in Malaysia, who had, when he died suddenly, there was stash of money in the safety deposit box here and there and everywhere else. All gone, but because those are all old currency. Same with UK. Every now and then they come up with new currency, and whoever who want to exchange our currency will have to come up. So they don't have this sort of problem anymore with CBDC. No such problem anymore. So anything that is expired, that's it. It's gone.
Yep. Exactly, and we are seeing the cascading effects. The trend started with Libra. Remember Libra, the Facebook so-called the coins tokens, right? And of course, then we have platform tokenization, right? And then cascading into like the Amazon, the social media platforms, and Reddit. Reddit has RCP, I think it was called Reddit Community Points. It's on Ethereum blockchain for their communities. Of course, it is still within the communities, yes. Now, of course, then in recalling the executive order on ensuring responsible development of digital assets. Whenever you hear responsible, it means, bloody hell, you better get in line. So you better get in line and fall in line and do what we say. If not, we can call on you. So having done that, what the President Biden executive order on the 9th of March on 2022 is emphasizing that the government, they should be the one examining the risks and the benefits of crypto. Now that's a calling. That's a calling card for you to go digging. Go setting up the framework and the regulations. And of course, with it come the stick, right? So in focus, the 6 key area which we have spoke about, all right, US competitiveness being one, very interesting there, and responsible innovation, interesting again, control innovation, therefore you control much things that is beyond your that tends to be beyond your control. The administration also wants to explore the digital versions of the dollar. All right, now scoping this Fed release, press release, actually, we can thus encapsulate that it is slow, sure, it is slow, all right, but it has moved from the back burner to the front of stage. Surely things are on the move. So things are still in the work in terms of crypto regulations. They could be in the wings, right? But the latest news, even from the ex-CFTC chair, I paraphrase, she claims. Now, neither SEC nor the CFTC currently lacks the power to regulate the crypto market. He says they lack the power. So the question that begets then, since cryptocurrency is money, and therefore payment, will it be under the Secretary of the Treasury, or will it be under the FSOC, which is the Financial Stability Oversight Council? It's such a mouthful, and let's hear what Mr. Moscow has to say. Let's have a watch of the video, please, producer.
美国的美联储竟然要接受，说可以跟私人的稳定币，就是洗美元 HDO 可以合作。你知道这是多大的变化，兄弟们，是天地之间的。他不敢说消除所有的数字货币了，他自己都在研究美元要数字货币化，还要跟私人稳定币，就是咱洗美元币要联合。你告诉我，赵长安的稳定币他谁控制的？共产党控制的。你找一个小毛屁孩子在这个大街上给你画了一个太阳，你就在那块开始取暖了，放太阳能了，你家可以发电了是吗？你去试试去。我们是实实在在的放一核电站，给你发出了热能，告诉你这是个核电站，而且这个核电站背后有核棒支持，就是投资者，而且真美元真搁在那儿。这个巨大的变化，你看看这个稳定币还有这个系统。我今天可以告诉大家，还有20%在那块搁着，人类上没有第二家。这是为什么现在几十个国家现在跟这个美联储在谈这个执照的时候，说你们到现在展示的是任何数字货币没有的系统。记住啊，这个系统设计是西哥的创意最牛的。第二是这个系统的合法性最牛的。第三，它法律的设置在全球性，它的法律安全性最牛的。还有一个，它的稳定的整个储备系统最牛的，还有个绝对限制，每年发行只有11个。
Okay, Moscow, the most awesome part about the way he has designed the Himalaya Exchange is that he has always expected regulation to be in the crypto space. So he has designed a whole system not wanting to evade, which is the objective of all the other cryptocurrencies. They have all designed in such a way that they say, oh, we don't want central control. We don't want this. We don't want that. No. So that's why Moscow is so confident in saying we have the best system. We and all the other 99% of all the other cryptocurrencies will eventually disappear because he expected regulation to come in, because he knows how the world is, how the game is played. There is no way then that you can wrestle power, the power of minting money, the power of regulating money, and all this sort of thing away from the higher authorities. So due to lack of time, we want to move on to the next topic. Director, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, we are talking about SWIFT. SWIFT, why is SWIFT taking so long? So we typically, we know that those of us who have used HPay before, the timing that it takes to transfer money is instantaneous. It literally is instantaneous. as fast or faster than OSCO, they say used in Australia. So why is SWIFT taking so long? Typically, for international transfer, it takes longer. It can be up to a week for money to be cleared. So let's see, what is actually SWIFT all about? SWIFT is actually a messaging system. Director, can we have the next slide, please? So SWIFT is actually a banking messaging system that is linking different banks using standardized codes for payment. It doesn't involve any funds at all, and it will typically take more than a few days if it's international. And if it's anything involving US, actually the money has to be routed through the US to be cleared by US. So the fund clearing itself is actually done, whether it's done by the receiving bank or the same bank per se, but SWIFT itself has two issues. One is it takes too long. Secondly, it's costly. So now let's have a look how HPay will replace SWIFT in the future. I want to pass the time to Jessie to talk about the whether SWIFT will replace SWIFT in the future. HPay will replace SWIFT in the future.
It's a Monday. It's all right. I know you had too many tequilas and martinis yesterday. All right. Now SWIFT is a messaging system. You know that. But I want to touch on the fundamentals, right? Which I think you know, for those of us who did international trade, you know how tedious it is, because it is based on the lack of trust. You know, you beyond the bank to bank, all right, and in between the transfer bank, receiving bank, you know, recipient bank, you have solicitors to solicitors drawing up, and then the verbiage becomes important. Like seriously, you know, it's like me. I have to go back to school, right? And then when we release document or not to release document, and when the releasing of the lien on your goods, etc. So you have the whole process that there is pre and then post. And then came crypto, and people go, oh, hang on, I could do a point-to-point now. But that's not the point. The point is there's still the lack of trust. And the lack of trust is, can I trust you when I release the fund to you that you will perform what you're supposed to perform? That's why when blockchain comes in. Once blockchain comes in, even if you don't release the goods, all right, the system already has, upload into the ledger, distributed ledger, that this is mine. So, and especially for those of the people, all right, where after the decimal point, the 7th and the 8th and the 9th numbers are so important, where in times of stability, where, you know, interest, where the forex is not so volatile, all right, this might not matter much to you, but in terms of currency volatility, yeah, the 7th and the 8th and the 9th after the decimal points becomes really important, because that could mean millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. And that's why the future for CBDC, the future for using blockchain is so exciting, because it resolves one of the fundamental issue. If the system is secure enough, all right, and if it is pervasive enough, where the trust, there is a recovery process, there is even if there's a lapse in the service, so-called service loop, you know, you can always go back to the blockchain, the ledger, to seek what is yours, or to seek what you are supposed to do. That's why you have the lawyers and you have the solicitors and the banks who are intermediaries. Really, we say their knickers are up in knots now. All right, that's all we have for you today. We hope you have enjoyed yourself. Any last word from you, Bindi?
That's the reason why e-currencies that is not based on blockchain will disappear. And we know why. Okay, because blockchain is the future, and we know why digital yuan is not going to fly. So thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode of Crypto News Talk. Goodbye.
Yeah. Enjoy your pina coladas.
却不知不觉离我越来越遥远。曾经那个意气风发的少年，为了生存只能拼命挣钱。财富是他们画下的大饼，虚幻背后发现全都是陷阱。各种经济暴雷，房价崩得稀碎，抬起头前路一片漆黑。Welcome to the world, to the new world. Welcome to the world, yes, going to the moon. Welcome to the world, to the new world. Welcome to the world, yes, going to the moon. Yes, going to the moon. Yes, going to the moon. 安全对前沿加密技术出手，那你的财富没人能夺走。稳定币、浮动币设计天下无双，还有20%黄金挂钩，摧毁不停压榨你的机器，从此不再做金钱的奴隶。洗联储的大门永远敞开向你，前途光明就在洗币。Welcome to